Tower of Fantasy is a brand new, high-budget title entering the open-world anime RPG market. Developed by Hoda Studios and published by Level Infinite, this game initially released locally in China in December of 2021. However, after their closed beta of the global version, which began in April, they are finally ready to release this game to the public worldwide. A lot of people have been anticipating this release because of the many unique things this game has to offer, such as the implementation of some MMO elements. Today, they have sponsored me for this video and gave me early access to the game, so I can tell you about 5 of my personal favorite features. If at any point in this video you like what you see and want to try out the game for yourself, the game will be live today, August 10th for both PC and mobile for free. Most of you have probably already heard of this, as it's definitely one of the game's most standout features, but Tower of Fantasy features a fully fleshed out character creator. I decided not to go with the male MC because I already knew I would just end up making the most generic isekai protagonist looking character, so I went with the girl to get the full customization experience. Yeah. What I really like about this specific implementation of such a system is the range of appeal and accessibility. If you're someone who really cares about having a very stylish or unique appearance, there's enough options for you to get creative. On the flip side though, if you don't value these kinds of things as much and just want to get back into the gameplay, which is fair considering the customization is offered to you after giving you a taste of the experience, you can simply choose one of the presets, edit a few things here and there, and continue on. And the customization doesn't just stop after this initial sequence either, as you can change your personalization at any time using 100 of the premium currency, and there's even more cosmetics that can be unlocked. Some are paid and some are unlocked through events, but I especially appreciate the set of outfits that are unlocked through reaching high percentages of exploration within areas. Given this game's heavier focus on social aspects, with things like teaming up with other players in the game's crew system, the level of individual expression makes a lot of sense and is executed well. Of course, for an open world type of game, the main appeal for most players is going to be exploration. Now, there's probably a million different aspects I could comment on relating to how exploration is implemented in Tower of Fantasy, but these next 2 points will go over 2 things I found especially enjoyable. The first is that you pretty much have the freedom to go wherever you want. At least in the hours that I played of the initial portion of the game, I was never restricted to where I could and couldn't go. Obviously, there is a main story quest that you are meant to follow to progress for certain things, and sometimes you might be locked out of somewhere due to being too low leveled, but overall I really like the approach of having the open world feel, well, open. Not having any invisible walls to stop me from exploring whatever interesting thing catches my eye is a great way of maintaining player immersion. You are incentivized to explore through a variety of different rewards, but the many methods of actually traversing the land help this very grand task feel not so tedious. In terms of basic movement, you have quite a bit to work with, as right off the bat you have access to a double jump and 3 dashes that can be used mid-air. And of course, you can also climb up walls of mountains or swim through bodies of water when necessary. But easily my favorite feature of the entire game is the vehicles and relics. Vehicles are pretty straightforward. You acquire your first one relatively early on, being a motorcycle. It's great because naturally it's faster than walking, but it also just makes for a much more relaxing exploration experience. I don't ever have to worry about managing a resource like stamina when using it, so I can go full autopilot mode. And when exploring on foot, you inherently are going to try and take as many shortcuts as possible, but when riding a vehicle, you can take the actual intended pathways without it feeling like you're taking a huge detour. But of course, riding a motorcycle isn't going to be ideal for every situation, which is where the relics come in. You can have 2 equipped at a time, and while often you'll want to opt in for the ones that do damage, I really like the utility ones. The first one you get is a jetpack, which lets you do a super jump and glide in the air. Then there's a jet board, which is especially nice for gliding on top of bodies of water, and my personal favorite, a hand cannon that creates a pillar wherever you shoot it at. Again, these tools help exploring feel less like a chore and make it much more fun. With the combat in this game, there's a lot of systems in play, and getting into all that isn't really in the scope of this video. I will say though that there is a pretty cool spread of different weapon types. Having time slow down after a successful dodge is a feature I will never get tired of seeing in any game, and simultaneously receiving weapons and looks for your character through a gacha, well, it's a gacha. You already know it has its ups and downs. But especially because you won't experience everything there is to offer here in the beginning of the game, it's important to not have the early combat gameplay feel too repetitive. I think the developers did a pretty good job with this, since through the scattered around ruins you unlock new relics to use, and the level design is based on whatever relic you receive. And also there are some one-off forms of gameplay that make the different sequences feel unique. And then of course there are various side quests that have you do random tasks that are also a nice change of pace if you ever get bored of doing the same things. And lastly, I'll talk briefly about the story. This is all stuff I experienced in the first few hours of the game, so they aren't really spoilers, but if you want to stay on the safe side, feel free to skip over this section. The opening sequence is pretty much a basic, stuff is going down and you probably won't understand it until much later on. We get our memories snatched and wake up in the care of Zeke and Shirley, who are brother and sister. Them and most of the other characters I found to be quite likable, and the fact that everything is fully voiced, even our own playable character's dialogue.
I'm sorry, Zeke. This was all my fault.
Helps sell the immersion and makes our character feel relevant to the world and story, rather than shoving in unnecessary attempts at making the protagonist a self-insert for the player. Also, it means our companion character doesn't always have to be around to talk for us, which I know is actually a pretty big deal for some people. So we do a bunch of errand work and then bam, the town gets invaded and Shirley ends up almost becoming a zombie. This actually caught me super off guard because I just kind of assumed she was going to be our best friend who we go through our entire adventure with, and then suddenly she is telling her brother to put her to rest, and then he leaves with the bad guys in hopes of saving her. Yeah, I was not expecting something so heavy in the beginning of the game, but if this is an indication of what the rest of the story is going to be like, it's going to be pretty interesting. So yeah, those were 5 of the things I enjoyed during my time playing Tower of Fantasy. But of course, I think you should try out the game for yourself and make your own opinions. The game is free on PC and mobile, and it's out now, so there's really no reason not to give it a shot. If you want to download, there are links in the description and pinned comment that'll take you right there. Once again, thank you to Tower of Fantasy for sponsoring this video, and thank you to you for taking the time to watch this video.